Hey everyone, so I thought I'd have another look at another title with regards to HGiG. So Mortal Kombat is a HDR game. It did give the little HDR handshake logo just in the top right when I actually came into it. So what I'll do is we'll just go into it and we'll have a look at how HGiG actually performs in this particular game. HGiG and off are pretty much identical, and as you can see, having tone mapping on pulls it up quite a bit. So if we look in this sort of region here, between on and HGiG, there is quite a considerable difference. Okay, so as we've come into the actual gameplay now, what I'll do is I'll just pull up the menu again. Just come down to expert controls, come down to tone mapping, and so first what I'm going to do is I'm just going to look on the actual TV and gauge for myself, because sometimes looking through the viewfinder can throw things off a touch. Right, so let me just see if I can bring the character, because where I'm looking is in this sort of region here, and what I'll do is just try and pull that down a touch. That's probably accurate to what I'm actually seeing on the screen at the moment. Just lock that in, and then when I turn on HGiG, the whole image is basically dimming. I'm just trying to see if I can actually, maybe in these sort of reflections on the actual armor itself. I mean, between off and HGiG, in this particular scene, there's nothing that I can actually see in terms of difference. Whereas between off and on, obviously most of you should be able to quite clearly see the difference. Let me just widen the picture out a touch, and then once again, nothing between off and HGiG. I can't notice any difference at all. Tone mapping obviously just pulls everything up, makes the whole image a lot brighter. I've never actually played this game on PlayStation before, so if I'm not very good at it, I do apologise for that. What I'm trying to see is if any of these particular moves, the blood splatter, anything like that, actually looks any different. Not that I can notice. Let's just switch to off. Yeah, so between off and on, where I'm looking is on these areas of the shield, the armor, and obviously you've got a bit of a bright spot where the light's actually shining in on, but between that and that, there's no difference that I can notice anyway. Once dynamic tone mapping turns on, whole image brightens, but it's literally just the whole image. It's not like they're picking out certain areas. So for example, it's pulling up everything. If we look at this sort of shadow detail down here, pulling everything up. Right, so I have actually spotted something. So HGiG is doing something, and this might be very, very difficult to actually notice. So I might need to actually just use the zoom lens. But just in this region here, just watch where the mouse pointer is. It's very, very subtle in terms of what it's doing. But on HGiG on, it's just giving a tiny bit more texture. It's almost as though there's scratches in the mask itself. Let me just see if I can pull it in. I don't know how well this is going to actually show it off. I might need to just pull the brightness. I mean, I don't think it's actually coming through on camera. Let me just pull that down a touch. There we go. So maybe I need to actually draw this down even more to actually show you. So between off and on, just in this sort of region here. And it's very, very subtle. But there's definitely, I mean, to the eye, it's actually a lot more noticeable. So with it off, your highlights are pretty much rolled off quite smoothly. So there's no real sharp reflection on this area here to the eye. And when I switch it to HGiG, it just gives a little bit more pop. This, as similar to God of War, where it almost makes this look more 3D. It gives more depth to this particular region and just sharpens up this particular line here, as well as adding in a few more details in these little 3D raised areas. As I say, it's very difficult to actually show on camera. Let me see if I can try and find characters that might. Let's choose, just as the PlayStation goes crazy, let's choose a different menu and let's see what happens. So as that returns, now let me see, to the eye, is there, okay, yes, so just in this region here, I mean, it's definitely doing something. It's very, very difficult to actually show this on camera. But it's a very subtle difference. Whereas dynamic tone mapping, on this particular scene, obviously it's not making a drastic difference as it did on the previous one. However, there is a tiny bit of brightening going on. So the whole image is literally just getting a tiny bit brighter. Yeah, so between off and on, it just gives a little bit more depth to the whole image. And as I've said in the previous video that I actually did on HGiG, I do actually prefer HGiG as opposed to dynamic tone mapping. Right, so I suppose in summary, the differences between HGiG on and off are very, very subtle. However, in my opinion, it's a more pleasing image compared to dynamic tone mapping. Dynamic tone mapping just seems to push everything up, including the brightness. As a result, you do get slightly raised blacks, probably more viewable in the darker shadows. However, obviously you will be losing some of the actual depth to the image by having it so brightened up essentially. I will be doing additional tests such as this. What I'll probably do for those videos, probably get my son to play, seeing as he'll probably actually be able to play the games as opposed to what I'm doing, and then I can run a few tests and I can actually concentrate on the actual picture side of things. Most of the games, apart from I'd say God of War was quite noticeable, and Last of Us. FIFA wasn't really noticeable at all. I probably need to reinstall PES 2020, just do a test on that, but I'm not expecting anything from that. It is probably a HDR title as was FIFA, but with FIFA I didn't notice any difference between on and off. Tone mapping obviously brightened the image as it usually does, but I wouldn't really be expecting much in terms of a difference on FIFA and PES anyway. On this one there is a slight difference in these sort of brighter areas and some really fine details that you do pick up. So in a game like this it's probably worth switching it on. I mean, me personally, I've switched it on and I've just left it on, that way I don't have to worry about it. You probably do obviously need to go into the in-game settings as well and change them from there. However, just as a general kind of setting, I'd say probably HGiG on for Mortal Kombat 11 is probably the way you want to go.